Hi, well, welcome to DRT Communications. We are glad to have you with us today. Can I just ask if somebody could just, put in the messages that you're hearing me okay, just in case there are any problems, or just let us know in a message if there are any problems with audio. We are glad to have you here with us because the conversation of listening actively, understanding what our audience is saying, understanding what the media is saying about us is so important right now. Many of us as marketing managers or communications directors, we are being asked every day to provide, information and data and be more data driven. And we want to talk about ways that we can be more data driven in the world of marketing. And with me today is to facilitate this conversation about how to be more strategic in our marketing, how to be more strategic in our business planning, is Stacey Hines, who is the head of group strategic planning at ICD. And I have also with us from GKMS, we have Yolande Giles Levy, who is a client of DRT, but also operates in a very data-driven environment. No, extremely data-driven. And what we're seeing now with all of our clients is that they come to us now and say, we need to have the information in order to even get more budgets. We need to have data to drive our decisions in a real way and feed that out into the rest of the business. So I'm excited for us to get started. So and of course, sorry, I'm Danielle Terrelong. I should have started there. Head of DRT Communications. We're a public relations, digital marketing, and media monitoring agency. We are the only technologically driven media monitoring agency in the Caribbean right now. So we're excited to have you with us, and we're going to be looking at 6 ways. We know we told you 5 ways as we were promoting this, but the team got super excited and said there is a 6th way that we are going to be reporting, showing everyone, providing insights on how media monitoring can improve your reporting process. So, Stacey, just talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing in corporate right now, where you are called in so many situations to look at a company's strategy, and you're being asked what kind of information is being requested of you right now. What kind of insight do you need to provide, or does the business need to provide to you to prepare the strategy?
Right. So I think that what would help with answering that is just a bit of context around the different types of companies that I interface with, and then the hats that I wear as a strategic planner, in particular as it relates to marketing and the way that relates to the overarching corporate strategy. So I wear several hats as a head of group strategic planning for the ICD group of companies. So we're an investment company, and we have several entities within the portfolio, different types of entities, all the way from your traditional brick and mortar to completely digital online, like Gustavus would be. And essentially, one of the things that we focus on is becoming more strategic with how we are not just running the businesses, but also how we're meeting that customer need. How we are actually identifying customer need and figuring out that journey, etc. Mm-hmm. And a huge part of what I think comes in play when it comes to media monitoring is being able to address what the market is saying. And that's I don't know that there's another mechanism that allows you to do that outside of having the market analytics, and that's really where media monitoring comes into play. Now, on the flip side, with Epic Transformation, which is really the consultancy side of my business, I deal with both entrepreneurs as well as small business owners, and they too have that need to understand, well, where is my red ocean? Where are my customers playing? And how are they currently interacting with the market? And so I get a lot of inquiries around understanding the customers, understanding the market that we're playing in, both as businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and how do we then understand what the market is asking for, and have data
Right.
to back that up, to then meet the needs.
So talk to me a little bit about data, and we all go up,
data.
and that's the thing, we're all in a position where we have to love data. Marketing, we back in the day, if you've been in this field long enough, you kind of used to go a lot with what feels good, and we still go on with a lot of what feels good.
Yeah.
So we now have to combine with the what feels good with the data that is driving so many of our decisions today. So talk to me a little bit about planning strategically using data such as what media monitoring could give.
Right. So I love data. I was just saying that maybe make me a little bit more of a geek than I would like to represent. Yeah. I'm a total data geek. And what we love to do around strategic planning is we like to make informed decisions as best as possible, because a lot of times what happens in the strategy room, as they call it, you'll have business leaders coming in and they really want to just get the budget passed, right? Just give me the approval for the budget. And so they come in with a lot of assumptions and oftentimes not enough data to support those assumptions. Mm-hmm. Now, what has been happening in the market, in the consumer market, that has helped us as strategists and as executives leading companies towards better planning is that the consumers are now at demand for the different types of products and services that they want. Right. And because they're now at demand and highly social, highly engaged through the internet and through all the different platforms, we now have access to that information. Mm-hmm. So coming into the strategy room, we're saying, okay, well, if this is your long-term plan, like a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, what are the trends that you've observed in the market? What are the things that you're seeing in the space of marketing and advertising, both digitally as well as traditionally, which you would get through media monitoring? What are the trends that you're seeing that will now help us to decide what is going to go into that long-term strategy? And then when you start to now look at the year-to-year plan, because I strongly believe in continuous planning, right, as opposed to that big bang, right? What becomes more important is having data that you're tracking on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, so that when you get to the big annual, okay, now we're going to review and decide whether we should pivot or whether we should stay the course, adjust some numbers, figure out what the budget is. You have the data going into it. Right. And because media monitoring and ad monitoring services provide reports, weekly, monthly, you're in a minute. In a minute. Like, I want a report right now. Right.
So we're seeing, we have 2 or 3 clients right now in the middle of, as we've said, in the middle of the gumbo. Like, we're just and we are there with them as they are going through a really rough time in crisis. And we have the opportunity to serve them in a real-time way, knowing what the market is saying about them, what the media is reporting, and the opportunity for them to report as it is happening. Mm-hmm. So, Yolande would remember a time when we used to have a 24-hour news cycle. I'm taking Yolande into a whole other time in her life when we used to be stressed out with a 24-hour news cycle. And on average right now, our news cycle is 37 minutes. That's a global statistic right now. We can't wait anymore for information. We have to know what's happening as it is happening, right? So let's go into the insights that we're going to be receiving today. We're going to be talking about maximizing your reach and impact through simply knowing data as it is happening, knowing information that's happening in your media. Insight that is real-time driven, data that is real-time driven, removing the guesswork out of budgeting. I know so many marketing managers. I remember the first time I had to develop a marketing budget. I used to work with TrueJuice, and the first time I had to do it, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to develop that. And now we have the opportunity to look at how our competitors are treating advertising budgets, how our competitors or even other industry players are playing in a space that maybe we want to be a part of, knowing what kind of budgets are required, knowing our customer perception, what's happening when you're in the middle of a crisis, what are people saying about you in the different social spaces, letters to the editors, op-eds, etc. Knowing when something is happening that's not planned. And of course, one of the more important things is measuring and verifying your return on investment. So I want to just go into, and we do have a special offer at the end for everybody who is on the webinar. Your company will be given a special offer for joining us on this webinar. So we also invite you to send in any questions that you may have. You can type it out, and then we will actually have an audio Q&A in just a short minute. We're going to be here for about 30 minutes, I would think. So one of the things that comes up, the biggest thing when we were launching media monitoring was defining it. So our media monitoring services are defined as news monitoring and ad monitoring. Our news monitoring services are picking up right now. Our system is listening everything from TVJ, TV6 in Trinidad, all the way to Al Jazeera. We are tracking keywords and phrases that come up and give real-time reports to our clients in terms of what's happening in the news space, the hotline spaces, etc. And our ad monitoring services, I can tell you up until 12 o'clock last night exactly how much money was spent in the advertising space, the creatives that were put out for a new campaign, anything that is happening in the advertising space in the traditional media. Our system is actually tracking that in real time. So when we launched this service, one of my favorite stories, we used one of our current clients as a guinea pig for the first 3 months, just to make sure that what we were seeing in their advertising monitoring was actually matching what they were putting out as we were testing. It wasn't guinea pig, it's, A/B testing is the right way to say it. But one of the big things was that they realized within 60 days that they were outspending their immediate competitor by 100%.
Oh, wow.
They and I hope my math there is right. Their advertising budget per month was $8 million. Their closest competitor was $4 million. That math was right? Yeah. Good. This stuff, right. So what they realized is that they were making decisions just based on always feeling the need to stay ahead. Mm-hmm. So they were like, Danielle, we will begin paying right now because immediately you have saved us $48 million, without even trying in our budget. And that was one of the big wows that we had for what the type of service that media monitoring and ad monitoring can bring. So we are going to be talking about understanding. I'm just going to go to are we at the next slide? Understanding your place in the media with real-time and comprehensive analysis. So when you have strategic intelligence like this, we've just put up these graphs here. We just grabbed them from some data that we were able to do, and we're just looking at the banks in this situation, and we're seeing over the past 7 days when this was done, JMMB, NCB, and Sagicor, immediately at the glance here, you're able to see something happened with JMMB, what big announcement happened, and we would probably all know what happened last week with JMMB. They were big in the news, etc. And of course, at the end of it, we see a big spike based on, of course, what NCB may be going through right now in the media. Stacey, tell me as a strategist, where do you see, an opportunity to make a decision having this type of information available to you in real time?
Well, there's a couple of things that I wanted to bring to bear here. In particular, when you're looking at the social media graph, because a lot of, I suppose, priority is being placed on digital marketing, social media being just one aspect of that. And the reason why there is such a significant priority being placed on digital marketing is because of the analytics, right? And so when I see information like this, one, I'm excited because if it is an internal digital agency, which I happen to have, right, it is very difficult for you to get competitor information. Right. So that's the first thing. You're able to pretty much immediately aggregate and see useful insights, like meaningful data that is not just about your activities, because you can gauge that, right? You have access to all the different platforms and you can, collate that data. But the value here is the competitor information and being able to see okay, so this is all happening over here with, let's say, JMB. There's a lot of, talk in that space. How can we now quickly utilize whatever that was, leverage that conversation that was happening over there for our strategies in social media this week?
Exactly. And then now the ability to aggregate what's happening in social media with your traditional media.
Right.
Online. So you're getting one,
is
online and offline.
Yeah.
You're getting kind of that information in one space, and you're able to make decisions. What do we do now in social? What do we do now in the traditional space?
Just coming back to what you were speaking about before, the budget, right? So with digital, you're constantly looking at how you can tweak and adjust your spend. And so being able to remove, as you have it, the guesswork from whether or not I should be doubling down on the ad spend from last week on whichever platform, have information at hand so that you can make those decisions.
Exactly. So I already gave the example of outspending, which was, of course, the next slide, removing that guesswork out of outspending, and also, of course, when you're underspending, because many of us don't have budgets that go on and on forever.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many a marketing director and a couple of CEOs on this call that are like, yes, Danielle, none of us have. Do you have any client whose budgets go on and on forever? And the answer to that is no. But I'm still looking. But we also run into a situation sometimes of underspending. And where are you overspending? Where are you underspending? Sometimes we think, I have a client who says, I'm not doing anything on radio. They're an international client. And we're saying, hey, everyone else in your space is on radio, right? So we have to make sure that we are present or not, or they have decided, no, we're not going to play in that space because everyone is there. But the point is that we're making an informed decision and we're not guessing about it, which is kind of the key insight there around, using data that is available to us just in any strategic plan right now, and not making, not guessing. So the next thing we want to talk about is knowing how your audience sees your brand in real time. So we have had, unfortunately, a number of crises happen, and we won't go into details because we know that, there are a lot of companies right now facing some stuff. But we see around us where a number of clients go through, crises, and we're there to work with them. But the big thing is about knowing what people are saying as they're saying it. A couple of years ago, one of our clients had a fire, and the most important thing that happened was, for me, is there are families across Jamaica wondering, is my son okay? Is my daughter okay? And they're listening into the media. And I remember one very specific media house said, we don't have confirmation yet that everyone is out of the fire. We knew as the PR agency that everyone was out, and we were able to respond right away. I remember we were in a board meeting, and we were able to respond right away directly to that media house to say, we can confirm everybody's accounted for and there's no injuries. And I just kept thinking, how powerful the value of that, being able to respond. And of course, that type of message went through, in social quite quickly. Ex-company reports that no one hurt in fire, immediately averting any crisis and of course assuaging any anxieties. So that is in the case of a crisis. But we're also able to see sometimes, Yolanda, if you could even talk about when you launch a campaign and you want to know what people are thinking as you launch that as you launch that creative, what happens. Before we used to have to maybe wait on a 3-month survey.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and if you have the budget.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly. So we can see because we do media monitoring with PRT, we do the advertising analytics as well as the media portion, article.
Right.
And we are able to track and see for one of our brands, especially when we launch campaigns, we can see right away. We get the weekly reports, the monthly reports, and we can see right away. And we can also compare. And that's one of the things I love. I know exactly what my competitors are doing. I know where they're spending. I can say, okay, cool, all right, yeah. And you can see the value. So you're not just seeing what you have spent, but you're seeing the PR value attached to what you have spent, which before, I don't know anybody who could have given that to you.
Right.
So that's one of the things I love. And you are able to pick up as well the audience sentiment,
Yes.
which again, that was something you had to guess
Right.
and spell. Now you see it in an actual report coming to you every single time. You can just check and say, okay, cool, this is working, this is not working.
Right.
We have seen things in the past that we tried that never resonated as well, and we were able to say, okay, that's not working.
Right.
It shows it's not working.
Yes.
You don't have to argue out the point, move on. You're able to make decisions quicker. That's what I like about the service.
Right. So one of the things that happens for us, we had a client recently who was given was involved in a contract that made the news, and there's quite a lot of conversation happening around whether or not this is something that Jamaica needs at this time, and how they would go about implementing same. And what we're able to see is sometimes we miss the importance of what happens on a hotline, what happens on the talk shows, and as a PR agency and as communications managers, the ability to respond to that as well. So yes, they get to tell us how they feel about our creative, but when you are in the middle of something that's very topical or something that's a very national discussion that you as a private entity happen to be a part of,
Right.
you can see how do I leverage this, how do I not leverage this, do I stand away from it, allow someone else to take control of that conversation. You get to make that plan not just based on all the pressure that may be coming from your CEO, etc. Kind of your best friend texting you. You're all over the news. You're getting everything in a way that you can, digest, if you will. So that's another area. So gauging the audience perception. So I'm assuming that Roxanne, our head of media monitoring, is telling me now that I'm supposed to go to what's unexpected with crisis monitoring. That's where you're sending me. So I think we've talked quite a bit about that. When things unexpected are happening, you are able to make a first step in a really quick way and to be very responsive. We see where we saw internationally where Starbucks, they had quite an issue last year. We were really in here doing a case study on Chipotle in the States last year, where they actually had to both stores had to actually shut down.
Yeah.
They were in Starbucks' case, there was a matter of race that came up, and how to handle that in a very sensitive way. The most sensitivity is how quickly you're able to respond to that, and what are you responding to. Not what we think we should respond to, but what people are asking of us. And I saw where Starbucks and Chipotle, in my opinion, handled those really well.
Yes.
So the other situation that I think is knowing where you rank. So when we open our ad monitoring system, as I was telling you before about our client who was outspending by 100%, but knowing where you rank in terms of being, and also being able to verify. So many of us, we have a new campaign and we say, our budget for our campaign is $2 million over the next 3 months or whatever it is, of which 30% we're putting on radio, 60% on TV, however we choose to do that. And then, yes, we get the tear sheets and all of these things, which is important, and we work very closely with media houses, etc. But things happen along the way. Are we able to verify that what we have sent for placement is being placed as we requested? So one of the things that we see, we work with a number of restaurants, and of course, our big time for placement of advertising is kind of between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, about the time that people are probably now, many of you are wondering what we're having for lunch. And so we want that. We don't need that ad at 1:30. We need that ad at 11:30, because you best believe we're finishing here and we're wondering what's happening for lunch. And we want to catch people at that time that they actually take a break and they're making their lunch decisions. So being able to verify how you are spending your money and the company's money is absolutely important, as well as time of day and which platform.
Yeah.
Is this a good time, a good place to be spending?
I think one of the things that I really like about the ongoing continuous monitoring then is the ability to see at any given point in time what happened the day before or what's happening in the last couple of hours, because as marketers, or certainly the ones that I work with within the group, we're constantly faced with that justify the marketing budget.
Yes.
For a long time, you will hear, and I have heard CEOs say that they don't know what the purpose is. Like, you know, that they know that, oh, yeah, this is a nice ad, but how is it actually helping me? They don't understand that distinction between a salesperson selling something per, you know, one-on-one versus, you know, what a billboard is doing, or what, you know, marketing on the news versus on Pinterest.
Yes.
For some, you know, what does Pinterest have to do with, you know, understanding that and being able to appreciate that and being able to approve budgetary spend on it,
Yes.
where you have information. So you can now point out to your senior exec or your boss or your colleagues to say, this is why we're spending here, because we're seeing a return on investment.
Yes.
And you don't have to wait until the end of the year to do that. You can literally have those conversations in your monthly management meetings.
Yes.
So being able to verify that placement and investment in real time, just about, is really priceless.
It is
And
priceless.
to add to that,
Yeah.
also to be able, because a common critique, many marketers, PR people hear, oh, I don't hear an ad.
I don't hear anything.
Yes, I haven't heard
I haven't
it.
heard it. I haven't seen
Yes, I haven't
anything.
seen
They
it.
say, oh, really? Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my report. Let me
Yes.
show you where the ad has been.
Yeah.
But and people are seeing it. You probably don't listen to that station.
Yes.
Right.
But people are seeing it. Here's the proof. And then they'll go, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, we are at the cocktail parties, we are at the events, we are on the ground. I tell you no, Yolande business, but I saw Yolande go and have a beach day with her family between like 10 and 1 the other day, and then be working at 2 to 6 in the country. And I laughed. I said, that is exactly our lives, where you have to be balancing family and work. So we are at all of these events, right? So sometimes we're not actually hearing what's happening in on the media platforms, etc., but our audience certainly is, and we have the opportunity to report. One of the things we do in PR here is within 10 days of any event, we give advertising value equivalency report to all of our clients to say, this is what happened when we, you sponsored, that run or that or some fest or, whatever it is. Here is the value of what you got, so that you can determine whether that's a good idea for us to do that next year. Or maybe next year, it's such a good idea that we're actually going to invest more because of the type of publicity that we got out of it, because of how we placed our ads strategically, etc.
And one more thing too that I want to add, which I think if things are coming to my desk, I'm pretty sure that there are other persons who have this challenge as well, where you constantly get bombarded with the requests for sponsorship.
Yes.
Right? If you want to demystify figuring out where to put money for sponsorship, get media monitoring. I think your headache around that. Right now on my desk, I have at least 4 people requesting that I put ads from the different companies for a particular TV show or a particular event that's coming up, etc. And if you have this kind of data, then you can say, well, even though I didn't think our viewership would have been here, it looks like this is a great place to actually put that in. Because right now, when they send over the sponsorship request, it's a lot of assumptions that you're getting, I think. So media monitoring, if you get things coming to your desk, asking for money, you can literally say, well, based on this report, it shows that, and you have a leg to stand on both when you choose to do something as well as when you choose not
to do it. Exactly. And one of the things that we actually see the other day, we, every 2 Tuesdays I run, and I'm all for all of the runs because now I'm learning to run. So if anybody has any tips on learning to run, please put those in the messages.
I can't run.
But anyway, there's always a run, so I'm excited to enter this new world of running. However, is this run a better run to be a part of than that run?
Yes.
Which runs get more publicity? Which runs invest more in advertising that you as an entity could leverage through a cross promotion with them? Our system is able to tell you, and we did this recently where we said we took this run that was happening and we said, here's just a glance of what happened. And that can assist you, of course, with, you know, a decision for you to be involved with that next year or start your own run. Actually, I tell you a joke. I was working with a client once and they were like, Daniel, the last thing I want you to do is tell me that we need to do a run. So I actually gave them an idea to not do a run, to just do a finish line. For all of the people, and at the time myself, who just didn't want to run but wanted to actually, you know, go across the finish line, that we would just have an event at the finish line. So by the way, if I see that idea, I just want the royalties for it. So we do have a couple questions that I'm going to jump in here, and then I'm just going to ask Yolanda to go through maybe 5 points that why using media monitoring, how it has been helpful for her at GKMS, and hopefully shed some insight on how just, you know, using numbers, etc., can also help you guys. But the question is, what is the margin of error for the media monitoring data? I'm not 100% sure I answered the question, but what I am going to do is tell you exactly how it works. So on our news monitoring, we have our system is listening. So let's just take an example right now that the keyword that we have in there is Yolanda Gazlivi, GKMS, Western Union. And that is the phrase that she has requested that we put in. And every single time any version of those words comes up, whether it comes up on Nationwide, whether it comes up on TVJ, or somebody tweets about her at the football league she was at last week, our system is picking it up. It is giving us the clip. So, you know, Cliff might be on right now on Nationwide saying, you know, he's here with Yolanda, or he just wants to big up the GKMS team for everything that they've done with Western Union recently, and a conversation is happening around that. Our system is picking it up and pushing that clip out to Yolanda's email in this moment. And it is doing that across the 27 broadcast stations here in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, and our reach is regionally and actually globally. We have a few companies that are actually doing global monitoring with us right now, because they have global partners and want to know what's happening with their partners. And so the system is literally picking up and it's listening right now. I tell people I have way too many cable boxes in my office. So that's what happens on news monitoring. On the ad monitoring side, once an ad places more than once, it is considered an ad. In other words, it places with the same intonation, the same music bed, everything is considered an ad. Our system has picked up once, twice, counts it as an ad, and every single time that plays again, whether it plays on Fame or, you know, Red 99 in Trinidad, etc., our system is counting that. It's saying, it's time stamping it, it's station stamping it, and it is giving us, it's saying, hey, this ad, the creative, has placed in this way. It has placed in relation to your competitors. We are counting every single ad that places in each of the territories that we operate in. So I'm not sure if that answers that question, and I'd be glad to continue answering it if you have if there's more that you'd like out of that. And the second question is the social media monitoring a separate offering? We have several packages that are available. Today we're just talking about, you know, really getting involved in insight and data and using it and being data nerds. But yes, definitely DRT has several packages with social media only, broadcast only, print. We tend to do it traditional only, I should say. What we do actually is customize our packages based on our clients' needs. That's what we do. We go in and we say, you know, what's happening in your space. We actually go in and test on the system and say, this is what's happening in your industry right now, because the need to be tracking the competitors is so important. So anyway, that was a very long way of saying yes. We do social media only, as well as other types of monitoring only and combined packages for Jamaica and the different countries that we operate in. I'm going to just ask Yolanda to come in now and tell us what your experience has been like. You've been our client. I was trying to work it out this morning. I have it at about 16 months. That sounds about correct. About right. And yes, as I said before, for anybody who joined late, Yolanda is with GKMS.
Home of Western Union, the Fixed Rate and the Express.
I was going to say that. I'm glad that you joined. Many of us use those services and see many of the campaigns that they launch. And one of the things that impressed me, I'm going to make her talk, but I just need to say this part. And I see this for a number of my clients right now. I just have to big up the JPS team while I'm doing this, because talk about being data driven. You know, GKMS, they are making decisions every day, marketing communications decisions that are data driven. They're not going up to their CEO without information that is bolstering, if you will, the reasons why they want to do what they do. So that's why it was really exciting for me to invite Yolanda to be with us today.
Okay, so I have been at GKMS for 3 years, communication and sponsorship manager. And in the field of communication, we always like to say, oh, you can't measure. How do you measure? And in the old school way of doing things, we used to sign up for Google Alerts.
Yes.
And you pray to God that an article will mention your company's name. Since we got on board with DRTS, that my Google Alerts, but I'll be very honest, I don't check it. I don't need to check it. Because I get my reports, I know exactly what was said. I even can get the radio clip, the TV clip, and I can save it. And if there is an issue, I say, well, this is what was said. This is what happened. This was the coverage we got. We have the proof. So that's one of the things I love, the fact that I know, because when I was doing every year you have to do a strat plan.
Right.
So when I said, okay, what are you going to benchmark against? What metrics are you going to use? I was able to pull up my report and look and say, okay, this is where we are in terms of sentiment, that kind of thing. This is what you will benchmark against. This is where you need to be. So for just the sheer data, the ability to get the data, to have the numbers, and to get and the data is not just numbers, it's not just theory. I have the actual article. I can click on a link. It comes up. I have the articles. I have the clips. So gone are the days when you'd have to pick up the phone, call the media house.
Right.
The media house for the clip.
Wait 3 days.
Wait, you're lucky. You get it in 3 days.
But you have to know the library.
Exactly.
Come on, man.
And then you also have to prepare to pay for it because they're not giving you that for free.
Correct.
You're an advertiser, but that's your problem.
Right.
This is a different service. You're gonna have to pay for that. I don't have to do that anymore. I actually have it. So that part I love. I can have informed discussions with my marketing managers. When they come and they say, boy, this looks like a good idea. To know that don't look like a good
Because
idea.
a competitor is not in that
Exactly. We don't reach that I know what my competitors are doing. But I can say to them, guys, when we did this, this is what happened. Guys, we're not doing this. We need to start doing this. Nobody's hearing us over here. This is why we need to be over here. People are listening over here. And the part that I love is that I know exactly what my competitors are doing.
Right.
Which is always a lovely discussion to have, because I love when senior management would say, oh, so-and-so is doing that. You guys are not. And I said, no, they're not. They're not doing that. This is what they're doing. Here is the proof.
Right, because it's not anecdotal.
It's not anecdotal.
Right.
This is the report. Here it is. We have outspent so and so. People see us more than so and so. Don't let the noise fool you. It's not true.
Right.
And having the ability to challenge and to kind of say, no, guys. And funny, the discussions start to change. And you'll find that they'll come now and they'll say, tell me something, you get a report yet? What did it say about last month? I'm interested to see what happened last month. And they say, yeah, I got my report. Here's what I said last month. Here's the part that you need. When we have to do reports for bigger, and when we are able to, because we work with an international partner, and when our international partner asks, we want to know what's happening with the brand in this space, and we can pull out and say, last month, this is what we did. Last month, this is what the competition did. And they're saying, okay, thank you. Right. So I love, it gives us a stronger footing. We can now challenge and we can say, guys, and when they want to cut budgets, and when things tight, the first part that went gone as marketing.
I never understood that.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm actually going to tell that story because we had media monitoring with a client at the end of the story. There's still a client, so Carla, and I would never say who it is anyway. But they were with us and they got big budget cuts. You know, we all know what it is. First quarter, it goes awry, and all of a sudden budget cuts. So they cut media monitoring and they cut it in September. Well, actually, what happened was very funny. Is at the end of October, we were in a board meeting and we got this urgent phone call because the CEO had not received the same level of data that he has become accustomed to. So they said, well, kind of cut the budget down there, and within 24 hours, it was one of my best stories. Within 24 hours, we were back on. CEO signed the signatures, the quickest contract we've ever gotten, and we've never lost that client since. So I'm always very excited because people really get, you know, accustomed to knowing what's happening in their space. Somebody asked just a while ago, are we monitoring radio and TV? Absolutely.
Yes.
We're monitoring traditional press, radio, TV, print, and online and social. Just so you know, we're not Big Brother. We're clearly not going behind personal privacy walls, but we are definitely monitoring the social.
And also, you are able to see the sentiment, not article, but the sentiments associated with what your company, whatever happened. So whether it's negative, whether it's positive, and you're able to, and you can look and say, okay, yeah, I can see that would have been negative. I agree with that. Positive, neutral, you know.
Right.
You see that when you get your reports. So you're able to, okay, this is what we need to fix. This is what never got good. This is what we need to continue to do because that clearly works.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, when we're at the cocktail parties, or the events, or I make it sound so pretty like we're just at cocktail parties. We're absolutely not. We're so not. But we're at like some hot football field somewhere sweating. When we're at these events, as you know, we don't necessarily know what's going on. So it's a good way to go back into office and to be able to see that and kind of absorb the information, as well as know how we can push harder.
Right.
If we notice that a media house has not taken on our story, why? We're able to call. So if from a PR agency perspective, I tell the team, if all of a sudden, you know, observe a business is carrying, you know, all the stories that we're putting out, is there a challenge? Is there something that we can do to make sure that, you know, do we need to call down to the Gleaner and say, hey guys, is there something any way we can pitch our stories differently? Any style of writing, you know, is there something? Because you can notice even those types of trends as you are launching campaigns out. Somebody just said, do you monitor regionally? Absolutely. We are in several countries. We have clients right now. We also have partner agencies across the region. So, you know, we are going to be offering in about 5 seconds as this sentence is finished a package. For anybody who's on this webinar this morning, we're going to be reaching out to you. We're offering you complimentary news monitoring for everybody who has attended for a 3-day period between now and the next 10 days. And anyone who signs on for a news monitoring or ad monitoring service will receive 15% off of a 1-year contract with us. So we're going to start this conversation because we launched this in 2015, and I would say to you that we were ahead of our time. We are now seeing where, you know, we had to do this type of webinar. Our phones are ringing, and it's ringing because data is driving all of our lives right now. So there was no way. I remember when we were starting this business, you know, we could have started with just Jamaica, or we could have started with just this type of media. And I said, no, I almost had to get indignant. We are not starting until we are able to offer this to the region. We have a lot of regional clients. We have the opportunity to expand our business across the region. We see where there are acquisitions. We see banks buying insurance companies regionally. We see so much investment. We knew at that time in 2015 that there was going to be so much regional expansion, and I didn't want to start without it. So absolutely, the answer to that question is yes. Do we have any more questions? So just reminding you that everybody on this call is, I think there's a link that you would have clicked on that you could, and we'll resend it if not, where you can sign up for anyone in your organization to receive a news monitoring industry report. So in that form, it will ask you for email addresses. You just put in all the email addresses, and we're going to be sending you that complimentary report. And we're saying that if you sign on, by the way, I should have said, if you sign on with us between now and June 30th, contract signed, sealed, delivered, after, you know, we get to know each other and have some good discovery calls, we're going to be giving you 15% off any 1-year contract on any of our services. And of course, I have to plug, because, you know, communications is my heart. We do have a PR agency, digital marketing agency here, but we're not here to talk about that. I just had to put that. But we do a lot of communications work across the region as well. So who better to manage your media monitoring than your PR agency, and who better to do your media monitoring than your PR agency? So that's my final plug on PR for today. But do we have any more questions there? So I'm going to wrap up now. I want to thank Stacey for just bringing a strategic, a couple insights in how to should be speaking strategically. Yolanda for spending her morning. She has a brand new fabulous office down at Grace Kennedy now, and that she hasn't invited me to, yes. But it's okay. We'll be down there. And so for leaving your new office and coming and spending the morning with us, and of course to everyone who has attended today, please reach out, email us. Asking questions, we're big on data. We want to hear from you at other information, maybe another webinar that you'd like us to have. We want to do this every 2 months or so. Let us know if there's anyone you think would be interested in this service. Send us an email, keep this conversation going. We're really, really glad to have been with you this morning. A special big up to the DRT Media Monitoring team for doing what I consider to be a pretty good, wonderful webinar for us this morning. Have a wonderful day. Make this be your best week yet. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.